Ogden, we're going to talk about Donnarumma and Manchester City, but I feel it's apt to bring him up now. If they're so desperate for an experienced goalkeeper, then surely the Italian ticks all the boxes, doesn't he?
Yeah, but apart from the financial ones, big wages and a big fee, a fee of, around 30, 40 million pounds from PSG. So,
wow.
They looked at Donnarumma and they were priced out. They looked at Emi Martinez at Villa, but wanted to do it on loan. So, yes, they spent a lot of money, but they've spent up now, United, so they have to get some money in. So that's why they went for Martinez on loan. They can't afford to do Donnarumma right now. City are waiting. He's like in a holding pattern because they want to get it done. Everything's all agreed, but they need to get Edison out because they can't have Edison, James Trafford and Donnarumma at the club. So, so far City have had like low bids from Galatasaray, like £3 million for Edison. But I think Edison won't stay at City to be on the bench. So I imagine that will happen this week. Edison will leave and Donnarumma will come in. And then City have got a world-class goalkeeper who doesn't play the way that Pep likes to play with a long ball and with his feet, but is a great goalkeeper, so they'll certainly be upgraded.
It's a little weird when you saw the mistakes that James Trafford made at the weekend.
Exactly, that's
so
what I was going to say.
You're putting a player on... Now, you might say at PSG, they did the same thing, but PSG didn't take as many chances going back to the goalkeeper as City do. City players are happy to roll it across the 6-yard box willy-nilly. A big presence in goal. I suppose you're taking that chance with the fact that maybe he'll just make some good decisions.
Was Joe Hart not an England goalie when he got rid of him?
Yes.
For that reason?
Yeah. Oggy, answer us that riddle then. Why does a man who likes a goalkeeper who can play with his feet want Donnarumma?
It's a question that Pep hasn't answered. It's a really strange one because they put all their eggs in the James Trafford basket. We're telling us that he's the one for the future. He's going to challenge Edison. He's going to be the number one beyond. And then all of a sudden, this real curveball comes in, Donnarumma. Because as great as he is, he's not great with his feet. And you're right, the reason why he moved Joe Hart on, well, there were other reasons as well. The basic one was the fact that he wasn't very good with his feet. So maybe Pep is looking at a different way of playing. I mean, the way that Edison played was crucial to the way that City played. His ability to beat the press with a long ball to Haaland was really effective, and they can't do that with Trafford. They won't be able to do it with Donnarumma. Whether Pep thinks that the game's changing and that they need a more reliable goalkeeper than one that can just distribute the ball with his feet for 50 yards, but he hasn't answered the question because they haven't signed Donnarumma. So, as managers always say, I'm not speaking about a player that plays for somebody else, but it's a real question mark because it doesn't stack up because Pep has always wanted a goalkeeper that can play the ball with his feet.
Mind you, in saying that, is troublesome as it was for the young man at the weekend, who is a good goalkeeper. On the face of it, is not their only problem. Because they were absolutely average at best.
Why were they so bad?
I think they found a team in Tottenham who had a really good shape. They found a team in Tottenham that was willing to try and pass the ball out. They found a team in Tottenham that had a bit of pace to run in behind on the counter and suck them in. Paulinho and Bentancur and Sarr and certainly Paulinho gave them a lot more solidity. And they lacked... Man City lacked any A, pace to the game, and B, they lacked invention.
Yeah.
They lacked invention. And once again, remember last year when we cut... And I'm not saying this is a big story. Do you remember last year, Carabao Cup, when they went out at Tottenham and they cut to the bench and they were all laughing? I can't remember what the score was at the time. They cut to the bench and Phil Foden, who was on the bench, didn't start. He's chuckling away. Right. They're getting pumped. He's chuckling away in the sidelines, which makes me think, what's going on at this football club? Yeah. It's hard to fathom. On the face of the weekend, they got what they deserved. Absolutely nothing. And they could still have been playing today, it seemed. And not have scored.
Don, how can they have been so good against Wolves and so bang average against Spurs?
Well, I looked at that team, Dan, and take Rico Lewis out of it because he's an attacking fullback and so is Aït-Nouri. They played with 3 defenders on the pitch. They played with Nico Gonzalez as a holding midfield player, Diaz and John Stones. You can't play 3 defenders. You've got to give the opposition a little bit more respect than saying we're going to play Reinders, we're going to play Cherki, we're going to play Marmoush, we're going to play Haaland, we're going to get all our attacking players on the pitch and we're going to try and outscore them. It's a nice theory and it's nice on paper when you see the team sheets come in, but when you think 2 centre-backs and 1 holding midfield player and that's it feels like it, and it looked like it was never going to work. I just think he took too many gambles, too many chances. Maybe he was thinking we'll get on the front foot. They created a few chances, to be fair, in the first half an hour. If they took one, it might have been a different story. But the second half, the longer it went on, Spurs looked comfortable. City started to lose confidence. They didn't get the likes of Reinders on the ball enough. They certainly didn't get Marmoush and Cherki on the ball for any length of time, any good moments in the game in the second half. And they sort of went really flat, and that'll be the worrying thing for Pep. I think on the Donnarumma thing, I think maybe it's a little bit more simplistic. Maybe he's thinking, well, I'll buy the best goalkeeper that I can buy, and I'm not here next year. It's someone else's problem.
We've seen Liverpool tonight, right? At the moment, a little bit weak in the full-back positions. Not because they're bad players, because they're new to the club and bedding in. If you look at, and that's a problem. You saw the problems that was caused by Liverpool, by Newcastle against Liverpool. We've seen it in 2 or 3 games. 6 goals they've lost. Not all because of the full-backs, but it's certainly an issue. You take that to City, and you look at, there are other facets of the team you could pick apart, I suppose. But the 2 full-back areas, to me, are still so defensively weak, it's scary. So then you're relying on holding midfielders and centre-halves. Because Rico Lewis he's a tidy footballer. But come on, anybody worth a salt can get at him. And Nouri likes to get on the ball, but he's not a very good defender. And that doesn't get away from the problem that City had last year. It hasn't addressed the issue, or one of the issues that they had last year, to bring in good footballing fullbacks who are not great defending. It's like you know, just doing the same thing and getting the same results. You know what I mean?
That aura that City had has completely vanished.
Yes.
And you shouldn't underestimate how that affects teams, particularly when they go and play against the so-called big boys. You know, because number one, you know that they'll give you a chance, which you didn't have before. You know that going forward, they're not as sharp, they're not as quick, they're not as clinical. And so defensively, you're encouraged to actually be brave and get tight to people. And as I said, the aura defensively has been completely smashed. And so teams are going now and playing City, home or away, and it's really simple. We just sit tight, don't give them anything, and then when they cough it up, we know we're going to get at them. And it's really simple, and that's what teams are doing. It's exactly what Spurs did.
But if you're weak in those positions, and it was one of the positions that he addressed when he first came to Manchester City, or he wanted to address, was the full-back positions, because he sees them as very important, because not only getting forward, but moving into the middle of the park and all that scenario, but you have to get back and defend as well. But when you're weak in those positions, you're asking centre-halves and midfielders to continually go over and cover, particularly centre midfielders, whether it be Gonzalez or Rodri when he's fit, because you're worried about them all the time. You're worried about their position. You're worried about them getting too far forward. And when you're dragging players out of the middle of the park to cover these sort of weaker areas, then teams are going to get more space and dominate you in the middle. And I'm just a little astonished at the type of player that Manchester City went out in the summer to bring into those areas, particularly the left-back area. It was kind of a like for like. Good footballers, bad defenders. And it just doesn't address the problem.